everyone. That's because I'm no light technician. You see that? Good evening, everyone. My name is Saman Giraud, and I'll be your host this evening, who is, as mentioned before, not a light tech. So, how we work from home during the pandemic, I guess. And I'll be reading for you tonight from 1001 Nights. Again. The music you hear in the background is from Kamyat Sabiri. You can look him up on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Facebook. All these beautiful platforms. Enjoy his music and maybe support him. It's beautiful, isn't it? Good evening. Alright. Let's start with tonight's reading. It's a love story again. The tale of Prince Kamar Zaman and Princess Budur, and none of them ever wanted to get married, and then two jinns put them side by side while they were asleep, and while each of them woke up, they fell in love with each other. And then they were separated again, and spent actually months, if not years, trying to find each other again. And now Prince Kamar Zaman has finally found Princess Budur, and he's hiding behind a curtain, just about to reveal his identity. Now let's see how she's going to react, shall we? Perhaps she moved on. We never know. All right. Now when it was the 205th night, she said, "It hath reached me, auspicious king, that Kamar Zaman, after setting the seal ring inside the epistle, gave it to the eunuch, who took it and went in with it to his mistress. And when the Lady Budur opened it, she found therein her own very ring. Then she read the paper, and when she understood its purport, and knew that it was from her beloved, and that he in person stood behind the curtain, her reason began to fly, and her breast swelled for joy and rose high. And she repeated these couplets. Long, long have I bewailed the severance of our loves, with tears that from my lids streamed down like burning rain, and vowed that if the days deign reunite us two, my lips should never speak of severance again. Joy hath overwhelmed me, so that for the very stress of that which gladdens me to weeping, I am fain. Tears are become to you a habit, O my eyes, so that ye weep as well for gladness as for pain." And having finished her verse, the Lady Budur stood up forthwith, and firmly setting her feet to the wall, strained with all her might upon the collar of iron, till she brake it from her neck and snapped the chains. Then, going forth from behind the curtain, she threw herself on Kamar Zaman and kissed him on the mouth, like a pigeon feeding its young. And she embraced him with all the stress of her love and longing, and said to him, "O my lord, do I wake or sleep, and hath the Almighty indeed vouchsafed us reunion after this union? Lord be to Allah who hath our loves repaired, even after we despaired. Now when the eunuch saw her in this case, he went off, running to King Ghayur, and kissing the ground before him said, O my lord, know that this astrologer is indeed the sheikh of all astrologers, who are fools to him, all of them, for verily he hath cured thy daughter while standing behind the curtain, and without going in to her. Quoth the king, Look well to it, is this news true? Answered the eunuch, O my lord, rise and come and see for thyself how she hath found her strength to break the iron chains, and is come forth to the astrologer, kissing and embracing him. Thereupon the king arose and went in to his daughter, who, when she saw him, stood up in haste and covered her head and recited these two couplets. The toothstick love I not, for when I say siwak, I miss thee, for it sounds siwaka. The caper tree I love, for when I say arak, it sounds I look on thee, araka. Thereupon the king was so transported for joy at her recovery that he felt like to fly and kissed her between the eyes, for he loved her with dearest love. Then, turning to Kamal Zaman, he asked him who he was and said, What countryman art thou? So the prince told him his name and rank, and informed him that he was the son of King Shahriman, and presently related to him the whole story from beginning to end, and acquainted him with what had happened between himself and the Lady Budur, and how he had taken her seal ring from her, and had placed it on his own. Whereat Ghayur marvelled and said, Verily, your story deserveth in books to be chronicled, and when you are dead and gone, age after age, be read. Then he summoned Qazis and witnesses forthright, and married the Lady Budur to Prince Kamal Zaman. After which he bade decorate the city 7 days long. So they spread the tables with all manner of meats, whilst the drums beat and the criers announced the glad tidings. And all the troops donned their richest clothes, and they illuminated the city and held high festival. Then Kamal Zaman went in to the Lady Budur, and the king rejoiced in her recovery and in her marriage, and praised Allah for that he had made her to fall in love with a goodly youth of the sons of kings. So they unveiled her and displayed the bride before the bridegroom, and both were the living likeness of each other in beauty and comeliness, and grace and love allurement. Then Kamal Zaman lay with her that night and took his will of her, whilst she, in like manner, fulfilled her desire of him and enjoyed his charms and grace. And they slept in each other's arms till the morning. On the morrow, the king made a wedding feast to which he gathered all comers from the islands of the inner outer seas, and he spread the tables with choicest viands, nor ceased the banqueting for a whole month. Now when Kamal Zaman had thus fulfilled his will and attained his inmost desire, and whenas he had tarried a while with the Princess Budur, he bethought him of his father, King Shahriman, and saw him in a dream, saying, O my son, is it thus thou dealest with me? And reciting in the vision these two couplets. Indeed, to watch the darkness moon he blighted me, and to star gaze through longsome nights he plighted me. Easy, my heart, for haply he'll unite with thee, and patience sprite with whatso ills he dight to thee. Now, after seeing his father in the dream and hearing his reproaches, Kamal Zaman awoke in the morning, afflicted and troubled, whereupon the Lady Budur questioned him, and he told her what he had seen. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, had ceased saying her permitted say. Now when it was the 206th night, she said, "It hath reached me, auspicious king, that when Kamar Zaman acquainted the Lady Budur with what he had seen in his dream, she and he went in to her sire and, telling him what had passed, besought his leave to travel. He gave the prince the permission he sought, but the princess said, 'O my father, I cannot bear to be parted from him.' Quoth Ghayur, her sire, 'Then go thou with him,' and gave her leave to be absent a whole 12 months, and afterwards to visit him in every year once. So she kissed his hand, and Kamar Zaman did the like. Thereupon King Ghayur proceeded to equip his daughter and her bridegroom for the journey, and furnished them with outfit and appointments for the march, and brought out of his stables horses marked with his own brand, blood dromedaries, which can journey 10 days without water, and prepared a litter for his daughter, besides loading mules and camels with victual. Moreover, he gave them slaves and eunuchs to serve them, and all manner of travelling gear. And on the day of departure, when King Ghayur took leave of Kamar Zaman, he bestowed on him 10 splendid suits of cloth of gold embroidered with stones of price, together with 10 riding horses and 10 she-camels, and a treasury of money, and he charged him to love and cherish his daughter, the Lady Budur. Then the king accompanied them to the farthest limits of his islands, where, going in to his daughter Budur in the litter, he kissed her and strained her to his bosom, weeping and repeating, "O thou who wooest severance, easy fare, for love embrace belongs to love a friend. Fare softly, fortune's nature falsehood is, and parting shall love's every meeting end." Then, leaving his daughter, he went to her husband and bade him farewell and kissed him, after which he parted from them, and, giving the order for the march, he returned to his capital with his troops. The prince and princess and their suite fared on without stopping through the first day, and the second, and the third, and the fourth. Nor did they cease faring for a whole month, till they came to a spacious champaign, abounding in pasturage, where they pitched their tents, and they ate and drank and rested, and the Princess Budur lay down to sleep. Presently Kamar Zaman went in to her and found her lying asleep, clad in a shift of apricot-coloured silk that showed all and everything, and on her head was a coif of gold cloth embroidered with pearls and jewels. The breeze raised her shift, which laid bare her navel and showed her breasts and displayed a stomach whiter than snow, each one of whose dimples would contain an ounce of benzoin ointment. At this sight, his love and longing redoubled, and he began reciting, "And were it asked me when my hellfire burned, when flames of heart my vitals hold and hem, which wouldst thou choose, say wouldst thou rather them, or drink sweet cooling draught? I'd answer, them." Then he put his hand to the band of her petticoat trousers, and drew it and loosed it, for his soul lusted after her, when he saw a jewel red as dye wood, made fast to the band. He untied it and examined it, and seeing 2 lines of writing graven thereon in a character not to be read, marvelled and said in his mind, "Were not this bezel something to her very dear, she had not bound it to her trousers band, nor hidden it in the most privy and precious place about her person, that she might not be parted from it. Would I knew what she doth with this, and what is the secret that is in it." So saying, he took it and went outside the tent to look at it in the light. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased to say her permitted say. Now when it was the 207th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when he took the bezel to look at it in the light, the while he was holding it, behold, a bird swooped down on him, and snatching the same from his hand, flew off with it, and then lighted on the ground. Thereupon Kamar Zaman, fearing to lose the jewel, ran after the bird, but it flew on before him, keeping just out of his reach, and ceased not to draw him on from dale to dale, and from hill to hill, till the night starkened and the firmament darkened, when it roosted on a high tree. So Kamar Zaman stopped under the tree, confounded in thought, and faint for famine and fatigue, and giving himself up for lost, would have turned back, but knew not the way whereby he came, for that darkness had overtaken him. Then he exclaimed, "There is no majesty and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great." And laying him down under the tree whereon was the bird, slept till the morning, when he awoke and saw the bird also wake up and fly away. He arose and walked after it, and it flew on little by little before him, after the measure of his faring, at which he smiled and said, "By Allah, a strange thing! Yesterday this bird flew before me as fast as I could run, and today, knowing that I have awoke, tired and cannot run, he flieth after the measure of my faring. By Allah, this is wonderful! But I must needs follow this bird, whether it lead me to death or to life, and I will go wherever it goeth, for at all events it will not abide save in some inhabited land." So he continued to follow the bird, which roosted every night upon a tree, and he ceased not pursuing it for a space of 10 days, feeding on the fruits of the earth and drinking of its waters. At the end of this time he came in sight of an inhabited city, whereupon the bird darted off like the glance of the eye, and entering the town, disappeared from Kamar Zaman, who knew not what it meant or whither it was gone. So he marvelled at this and exclaimed, "Praise be to Allah, who hath brought me in safety to this city." Then he sat down by a stream and washed his hands and feet and face, and rested a while, and recalling his late, easy and pleasant life of union with his beloved, and contrasting it with his present plight of trouble and fatigue, and distress and strangerhood, and famine and severance, the tears streamed from his eyes, and he began repeating this sequence: "Fain had I hid thy handwork, but it showed, changed sleep for wake, and wake with me abode. When thou didst spurn my heart, I cried aloud, Fate, hold thy hand, and cease to gird and goad. In dole and danger my sprite I spy. And but the Lord of love were just to me, sleep from my eyelids never were forced to flee. Pity, my lady, one for love of thee, from his tribe's darling brought to low degree. Love came and doomed, wealth beggared death to die. The railers chided thee, I never gainsay, but stopped my ears and dumbly signed them nay. Thou lov'st the slender May, say they, I say, I've picked her out and cast the rest away. Enough, when fate descends, she blinds man's eye." And as soon as he had finished his poetry and had taken his rest, he rose and walked on, little by little, till he entered the city. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Hope you enjoyed the reading. I wish you a wonderful night. Joanna will be tuning in tomorrow and sending you much love from Vienna, much light. And yeah, as usual, remember to go inwards instead of outwards. And I'll see you next week. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.